Okay, and welcome. Welcome to our very first attempt at sharing this semester about graduate research and using our Sul Ross State University's library services. I am very honored to have with us Miss Betsy Evans. She's with the Sul Ross State Library, and she is our education outreach representative. She's going to take this time to share with us how to best leverage the resources available to you. As you know, as graduate work requires a lot of intensive writing. And as you move through your semester and your coursework here at Sul Ross, we want to help you become a better communicator and to leverage the research articles and journals available to you in your coursework. So I really appreciate Mrs. Evans taking time out to visit with us today, and I hope you find this beneficial. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for being here on a Tuesday evening. We were going to try using a poll really fast to see if everybody, maybe I can end one and start another one and see if you guys have used the library before. We've just kind of wanted to play with some of the new features. So if I put a poll up with yes, no choices here, why don't you guys respond to it and say if you have used the library, yes if you've used the library, no if you haven't used the library. Ooh, we got one. Okay. Maybe, and I think some of you maybe aren't able to do the poll, but all right, so we're kind of in the half and half. Somebody might break the tie, but that's good. Thanks for your honesty. I have students sometimes brag about, oh, I've never been to the library before, and they're here on campus, and I say, okay, well, I know what you're doing this afternoon. I'm going to walk you over there myself. But since I don't have the time to come and pick you guys up and bring you back to our library here in Alpine, I can at least show you some of the online resources that we have. So what I'm going to do, I'll end this poll, and I'm going to share my screen with you over here. So it might be good just to kind of think about finding the library's website. So this is the library's website. This is our online presence. It's not going to look that great. We had this issue the other day where I want to show you a lot of different things on the screen, but it looks probably pretty small. You'll see up in the corner of your Collaborate session that you can zoom in if you want. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit for us and hopefully just kind of give you the lay of the land here. You should be able to access this website. It's library.sulross.edu from Blackboard as well as from the Sul Ross homepage. I sometimes just like to remind people it's pretty easy to go ahead and Google Sul Ross Library and get all the information you need. You've even got this nice Google image pops out. It gives you the phone number for the front desk and all of our hours. Because you know that when we're open, you will be able to chat with a librarian or email with a librarian or talk to one of us on the phone. So tonight we close at 9, so you can chat with us until 9. But anyway, you're going to just go to our website. And what I want to show you guys today is a little bit about kind of the main library search page, which is this search bar in the front. Then I'm going to show you specifically how you can dig into subject-specific databases having to do with education. It's just a different way to access research and resources that are good for your coursework. And then we're going to talk a little bit about citations, both the in-text citations and the end of paper citations called reference lists. And then I'll show you Smart Thinking if you haven't had a chance to access that. I don't use Smart Thinking a lot, but it is a really cool resource, and you'll find that some of your professors will actually write it into assignments so that you will become familiar with it. If you're unfamiliar with what Smart Thinking is, it is a service for when you can submit a draft to Smart Thinking, and then they are able to give you feedback before your professor ever sees it. So it gives you some nice feedback, kind of like a good editor to have. And it helps you with time management when you're working on those big papers. Okay, so, and also feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. I see maybe there's a chat. Oh, thanks, Jennifer, for putting the link there. Okay, so we're just going to do kind of just a quick search to see what it's like to do this all library search, since about half of you haven't used library resources before. There's kind of two schools of thought where you want to learn like the technical way of how to work a library. And you guys are graduate students, so you've been around the block, you've been to some libraries in your life, but they're all a little bit different. And then there's more the conceptual research side where you've got to think about how you want to go about breaking down a topic for keywords and how you want to kind of navigate all the resources that are available today and the changing environment of all the information that's being created. So there are two different schools of thought, and we're going to kind of keep it on the technical side today, but I'm always available to talk about kind of hammering out research questions or concepts, and I can show you some places on our website where you can also kind of get more familiar with doing that stuff. So anyway, let's just do a quick regular search. So we've got these options down here for advanced searching or searching the classic catalog, which you probably won't do much of. That's more for searching in the library building here in Alpine. And then WorldCat is even, it's a broader search. It's searching not just records that we have access to here at Sul-Ross, but records of resources that exist in libraries around the world. So just kind of a basic search, we can do literacy and pre-K. So maybe you would put more natural thinking, pre-K literacy. And then we'll hit search and see what comes up. So if you haven't used this database before, what that main search bar is actually an aggregator of databases. So we still call it a database, but it's actually bringing together sources from, so we pay money for about 150 databases. And when you use the search bar on the main page of the library's website, you're searching about 120 of those databases at the same time. So later when I show you the subject-specific databases for education, you will be searching the education databases when you use this, but you'll also be searching a number of other databases for all different kinds of fields of study. And this can be kind of cool because that way you might find some kind of interdisciplinary study going on between education and biology, for instance, that maybe something's published in a biology journal that you wouldn't have ever found if you hadn't been using an aggregator like this. But it can also be overwhelming. We see right away that literacy and pre-K as a search gives us a little bit over 2,500 results. And what you're going to want to do is become familiar with using this search just by using it over and over again. You can see along the left side, you've got quite a few options for letting the computer help you limit your results so that you don't have to do so much sifting and so much of the heavy lifting. You've got this box up here that's showing you how you're filling the search, and then as you scroll down, you've got these options. So let's say that you're doing some specific academic research. a lot of times it's a good idea to just go ahead and check the scholarly and peer-reviewed journals box when you do that. That's going to filter out the sources that are not scholarly and peer-reviewed. So when we do that, we see that quite a few less sources show up, and when you're scrolling down, you're seeing a lot of, that's at conference proceedings, things from academic journals, and then we've got frequently asked questions will start popping up a little bit more. Oh yes, take notes, Kenneth. And then as you just scroll down, you'll see more and more different buttons showing up. So it's hard for you to absorb everything that I'm saying at once, because there's so much going on this page, but everything here is clickable, and I always just suggest trying to open things in a new tab so you don't lose your place. I don't think that shows up when no, you can't see my window when I do open link a new tab, but if you need help doing that on the side, just feel free to ask. So, okay, so we've got other limiters here. Peer-reviewed is a great one. Another big one is this publication date option right here. And you can use the scroller to, maybe you want to make sure that your education research is only stuff that's happened in the last 10 years. So you can change your publication date to 2000, why don't we do regular math, so 2007 to 2017. And it's interesting because so much of, we had previously things that were published as early as 1976, but we still have 752 articles to sort through. So at that point, you would want to make choices about where you might want to filter, or maybe you would just want to kind of start clicking into some of these records. So you can see this numbered list of results. We call these records because it's not quite the source yet. It's just the record of the source. So I'm going to go and look at number 4, pre-K partnership, how one library and one public school increase parent engagement. Okay, that sounds like a particularly interesting case study. I can see right here that was published recently, last summer, and kind of start to get a little bit of information about it. When you click into it, you're going to get even more information. Some records are a lot longer than this. Here we've got subjects that are linked, so if you know that this is a particularly interesting subject to you, you can go ahead and maybe help yourself with jotting down other keywords, or even opening one of the links in a new tab to see like what else is out here about teaching aids and devices. So that's going to open a new, it might take a while for that to load, but it's going to open a page of all of the other articles that are linked with the same subject heading, which is really nice. It's a really great way to have the computer do the work for you. Then you can see the other tools that you've got specifically with each source. So you can manage your research in this database by creating your own login. You do have to create a login. It's not integrated with your Blackboard credentials. So definitely write down your password when you do that. But you can see up here, it lets you sign in, and if you haven't done it before, you can create a new account. And when you're logged in doing research in these EBSCO databases, you can add things to folders, and then you'll be able to access them from any computer. And that's kind of a nice thing. Similarly, you can add things to Google Drive if you're a Google user. We all have access here at Sul Ross to Microsoft 365, which is Microsoft's answer to Google Drive. So all of these are options for keeping track of your research, especially if you are doing research on the fly and you don't have a printer nearby, or you can, I think these days you can even really do this all on a smartphone. So keep those things in mind. And then of course, citation tools are really big, and we'll talk about citations in a little bit. But it is nice to know that the computers are getting smarter at building citations. They're not foolproof, but you can go ahead and see, like here we've got the APA citation of this specific resource, and you can tell right off the bat that you would want to edit every citation that you pull from here, because the computer algorithm pulled in the name of the author wrong. It's all in all caps, and you wouldn't want to have a name in all caps on a reference list. So everything else really looks pretty good to me without getting too deep into it. So that's kind of nice. It saved us a lot of time, but we still have to monitor the computer, and we would want to put those in lowercase. Things like that. Okay, so that's the citation tools. But then how do you actually look at the, oh, do we have a question? What are the recommended research?
I'll address it at the end of your presentation.
Perfect. Yeah, because that's definitely something I would say it depends on the scope of your project, all that. So I will let you speak to that later, Jennifer. Okay, so we're at the record page, but how do you actually look at the resource? And you'll see over here that PDF icon is a wonderful one, but you might also see an HTML icon or something that says full text finder, and you kind of just click around until you find what you're looking for. There aren't like all the kinks aren't worked out of our database systems because it's so many different people working together to try to put this information on the internet. Anyway, this loaded up. So this is the scanned version of the article, and you can see that it's got all of that same information that was being used by the citation builder, pulling all of the pertinent metadata about the article so that you can read it and cite it. You've even got the page numbers in here. So that is, I would call this, I guess we did limit to peer edited. Is this, what journal is this from?
That's a scholarly work.
That's right. Oh yeah, okay. Children in Libraries, the Journal of the Association for Library Service to Children. Yes, that sounds scholarly to me. Fabulous. So that is how you would kind of go about looking at the different resources and kind of getting an idea of what they are. And like I was saying, there are different icons here. The look up full text icon, it's a little different. I can just kind of show you how you have to go, maybe jump through some hoops sometimes. So here's another record page. You can see this one's a little longer. It has a little bit more information, including what I find super valuable is when it gives you the abstract right in the record. Saves you a few clicks if you realize that maybe it isn't exactly what you're looking for, because the abstract is a summary of the paper. But then I can show you what it looks like if we're going to look up full text. You've got this opening in a new window. Maybe, see, there are just some things that are working together sometimes, and it makes us worried when it doesn't immediately come out or it doesn't look the way that we think it's going to look. So we're now in a SAGE journal area. It's recognized Sul Ross State University Library, and it looks like you can download the PDF from here. So the interface is a little bit different, but what is important is that you've got the access. Now, this leads to a really important thing to remember. If you're doing research away from a campus, you're going to be asked to sign in. And if you let that time out, you'll be asked to sign in again. So when you're, like, if I'm using the library's website from home, it will let me do research, and then it'll eventually prompt me to log in, and that's going to be always with your Blackboard credentials. So if you're ever having issues, technical issues with that, the Lobo Technology Assistance Center can help. But if it's a problem that's specifically with accessing something in the library, you can always reach out to us too. We think we were having some issues about 2 semesters ago, and I didn't hear much last semester, so I hope everything's been worked out. That's kind of all above my pay grade in terms of technology, but I can do the best I can to help you get the access. Cool. So that's a little bit about the All Library search. So I'm going to take us back to the home page so that I can show you 2 different ways to look at databases. So we've got this button, Browse and Search Databases A to Z. And earlier when I was saying that we have access to a bunch of databases, I don't know, I might have made up the number. We've got 29 databases, and they're all listed here, that of which most are being searched when we do the big search that I was just showing you. So in here, you can look at each database individually if you so choose, and you can search within the databases here to find out maybe education and professional studies. There is an EBSCO database called Education Full Text. That's going to be a great database, but you might also want to make sure that you're checking ERIC, the Education Resource Information Center. So that's sort of why I suggest that you go ahead and make use of that big search bar on the main page, so you don't have to do the same search in several different databases. If you do want to get familiar with these individual databases, this is a great place to do it. And then also, kind of just jumping back to the home page, under this first button called Research Help, we've got a link to library guides that are built by the librarians. And in the library guides, there is a specific education research guide. So you can go and click into that. It also has its own kind of quick link, and I can make sure that Jennifer has that link because it's not super memorable. But here you've got opportunities to kind of look at reference material that might be of specific interest to education research and databases. These are the same databases that you'll find when you're going to that big A to Z list, but they're here in the education research guide just to hopefully save you a little bit of time. Maybe some free internet resources, so that means things like government organizations, educational resources that you don't have to pay for, but that we at the library have found are still high quality information. And then of course, open access data and statistics are usually pretty important in some of your assignments. So this is just a listing. We update it, when we find something new, and try to keep that maintained. But I'm sure your faculty and you all have your own other resources that kind of fall into that category of the free internet resources. And then of course, we're going to talk a little bit about citations. So education and library science, which is what I studied, use APA style, so I think it's the best of the styles. And it's one of those things that doing citations is just an important part of being involved in scholarly communication. So it's a little bit of a hassle. That's why we use those tools like the citation builder that I showed you in the database. But it's really just about buckling down and using the style consistently, and it's not just about putting that reference list at the end of your page, but it's also about doing those nice in-text citations, whether you're building a PowerPoint presentation and using somebody's ideas on a slide or answering a discussion board question, because you can't make any assumptions that people know that you're referencing your textbook or a reading that everybody read in class. You've got to get in the habit of sure that you're always letting people know where it is that you're getting the ideas that you're using. So it's just good practice to kind of infuse all of the writing that you do with in-text citations. So on this guide, we've got we link out to the best of the best. We've got the APA style blog, which I love because they get really kind of totally dorky about APA style. They have this blog where they are talking about citing tweets and citing things like Apple Watch information. People get really excited about style. So, and it's nice that there's so many great free resources just available straight from the American Psychological Association. But of course, Purdue OWL, the online writing lab from Purdue University, if you haven't used that, totally recommend it. This links to the APA style workshop, and you can go through PowerPoints here that really tell you exactly why and how you need to do in-text citation. So those kind of giving you some tricks of how you can work with the language of explaining how an author and the year of a publication and a quote so that you can finesse it so it sounds more natural when you're building your research papers. Are there any questions about that? And otherwise I'll make sure that, oh good, Jennifer put that link in there. Let's see. Yeah, I think Purdue is really the best. You've got this style guide in here, in-text citations, the basics, and it's so helpful. If I get a question at the reference desk about citations, it's not something that I know off the top of my head. I'm usually like, okay, let's go look online together at the Purdue OWL, and then we both learn something. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show you guys is smart thinking, and it is kind of a tricky one. So I was speaking with our Blackboard person, Sandy Bogus, who, if you're ever having any issues with Blackboard and you haven't met her yet over the phone, she's awesome. She loves helping students. So similar to finding the library's website, I always just Google Sul-Ross Blackboard to get onto Blackboard. It's probably not going to ask me to log in because I'm sure it recognizes me. So we're here in my Blackboard suite. Golly, that's small. What I want to show you is over on the left-hand side where you've got tools. So you maybe have moved some things around. I know a lot of people have personalized their Blackboard. Mine is pretty much what the default settings are. So you can see we've got the nice link to the library up top. And then what you're going to want to look for when you want to log into Smart Thinking and begin using that is, oh, she did change it, Smart Thinking for Alpine graduate students. So you can go ahead and click into this course, and then you're going to want to click again, and it should automatically launch, but it's also going to always do a system check every time you log in. So let's see. You're going to have to just follow the instructions. You may blah, blah, blah. I'm sure, yeah, because I'm using Chrome right now, and I'm sure I have some pop-up blockers on. Then you hit continue. You can see, let's see. We've got Sul-Ross is recognized up here, so it knows it's recognizing my IP address, and it knows that we're going to do this for free. And you can kind of just start navigating around. You've got opportunities to submit writing. They also do career documents if you ever want a second opinion on a cover letter or a resume. And then there's also live tutoring. It's really, I think, an underutilized and pretty amazing resource that we have access to. So, and it's pretty user-friendly, and you would just go ahead and click whichever you wanted to do, kind of make a decision. Do you just want a paragraph reviewed? Are you going to go for the whole essay? Do you want them to check out your citations to make sure that you're doing that right? So certainly something to, if you're having any kind of feelings about it, is my writing high enough? Am I doing what I need to be doing to get the grades that I want to get? Take advantage of this. It's totally free. All it takes is a little bit of extra planning. So you can see up here, they strive to return essays within 24 hours. So you do have to plan ahead a little bit. I'm a grad student this semester too, so maybe I'll try smart thinking next time just before I turn in my next assignment. That's kind of all I have for you guys. If anybody has questions, I can show you, of course, how you can get help from a librarian. There's this chat box that lives on our homepage, so that's one way. It's offline right now because I'm technically the librarian on duty, and I don't have it on, but I'm about to log off from here and turn it on. And then up in our navigation, you can just, if you want to ever put faces with names, you can see all of our library staff and our pictures up here for anybody that you're chatting with in the library. And we've got all of our phone numbers and email addresses. And then, of course, when you're in the search, it'll also pop up to ask you if you need a chat. So it probably won't do it when I'm asking you, but if you're ever searching in an EBSCO database, you have that option as well. So chatting and emailing is a super great way to get help, because then we can either do something like a collaborate video so that you can watch us and share screens, or we can give you step-by-step instructions with pictures if it's something complicated. And either way, you'll have a transcript of what we talked about. So it's a little bit better than a phone call, just in terms of you can go back and review what we talked about. But we're also available by phone if that's what you prefer.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing with us. I know that our students are really appreciative. I did want to address one question that was asked earlier, which was, would you recommend researching the years? I've published about 12 scholarly works in my past. And when you're working on a dissertation or any article to submit for publication, the first part of your writing, you need to cite the history. And a mark of a good scholar is when you're able to summarize succinctly your writing. So when I'm looking at your writing, if I see, a really lengthy sentence, I would prefer you to try to shorten and to be succinct, but you also want to think about what you're trying to accomplish. If you're not publishing an article and you're not publishing something that might be lengthy, and you're looking at a discussion, you wouldn't want to look at the history of something. But I think it depends on the purpose. So in our classes right now, many of you are utilizing the discussion tool. And you wouldn't want to probably give a lot of background unless it's a diversity class and we're thinking about the historical context of, for example, this week, Brown versus the Board of Education. So, it just depends on the purpose. I really encourage you to utilize the services here, and especially the SmartThink. I am always trying, right now I'm in the final stages of publishing a book chapter, working on my first book, and all of that is teaching me how to become a better writer. Like you, I'm having to always refresh my memory and utilize the tools that I have so that the editing process is clearer. If any of you are really wanting to think about publishing and academic presentations, reach out to me. I am working on a couple myself right now, and I would love to take graduate students with me. But we really want to just really focus on how we can utilize research in our reflections. So I would like to see more of examples of how current topics are not only relevant in the past, but how they might be being leveraged in the future. Some of you have research papers that you're working on, and of course in that context you would want a summary that has like a background or historical context in your introduction or right after the introduction. And a great way for you to learn how to do that is to read other articles. And when you look at a scholarly work, it's usually set up in that way. You'll see a background and our introduction and a background, and it's very short. It's not lengthy. I hope that helps. Does anybody have any further questions for Betsy? Okay, we want to thank you again for joining us today, and thank you, Betsy, for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us.
For sure. Yeah. I will be on the chat until 9 tonight if anybody needs anything. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to share this with our other professors, and I look forward to seeing you guys. Those who are my students, look forward to seeing you in class. Y'all have a great day.
Bye, everybody.